Antonio Pierce has led the Las Vegas Raiders to an 8-9 season. He is 5-4 as the interim head coach of the Raiders, and yet they are heavily pushing for Jim Harbaugh to be their next head coach. According to reports out there, the Raiders are heavily pursuing him to fill their head coaching vacancy, and many people are riled up about this. And I don't blame you. Like Antonio Pierce, he has the support of the players. The players want him. Devontae Adams has came out plenty of times and voiced his support of Antonio Pierce getting the full-time coaching job. And if you are the owner of the Raiders, are you really going to want to make the same mistake twice? Like, you ended up passing over Rich Bisaccia, who led your team to the playoffs despite all of the off-the-field distractions you had with Henry Ruggs and John Gruden's emails, and you replace him with Josh McDaniels. And of course, he regrets that decision because it was idiotic. Like, you should have just went with the guy who got you to the playoffs. And now you're in a situation when a similar thing is occurring. You're not in the playoffs, but you are a way better team with Antonio Pierce being the head coach than what you were with Josh McDaniels. And I do like Antonio Pierce, and I do believe that he deserves the opportunity to get the full-time head coaching job for this team. But not if Jim Harbaugh wants to come coach this organization. Like, if you got a chance to get Jim Harbaugh, you do it. Like, I love Antonio Pierce and everything that he's done. And yeah, he has the player support, but Jim Harbaugh is a proven winner. Like, who cares if he has to support the players when you can get Jim Harbaugh? Like, Jim Harbaugh is somebody who players love too. This dude has won everywhere he's been. He took the 49ers when they were irrelevant at one point and led them to 3 straight NFC championships with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick in the Super Bowl. He turned around Michigan football. He turned around Stanford. Jim Harbaugh is a rare coach. He's one of the best football coaches around, not just in the NFL, but in college. Oh, he hasn't coached in the NFL in a very long time, bro. Who cares? Who cares? He wins. There's not a single thing on Jim Harbaugh's resume that will show you otherwise, that this dude is not a winner. And when you're playing in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL, like if the Chargers get their head coaching position right, and, the Broncos finally find a quarterback, like Jim Harbaugh is the kind of coach that you're going to need in a division with this much talent. Like, you got to go up against Sean Payton, Andy Reid, twice a season. You need a great head coach. You need a proven head coach, and that's what Jim Harbaugh is. Jim Harbaugh would be good enough to have you in the postseason next year. Like, are you really going to allow Jim Harbaugh, if he wants to coach your team, get passed over for Antonio Pierce just to have the Chargers go and scoop him up? Imagine that. Like, I love Antonio Pierce, but if you can get Jim Harbaugh, you get Jim Harbaugh. Like, he is the clear more proven coach and a better coach than what Antonio Pierce has proven to be right now. Like, Antonio Pierce, what he did was remarkable. They got a big win against the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to give him a lot of props for that. 5-4. But Jim Harbaugh has been to 3 NFC championships and a Super Bowl. He's won everywhere that he's been. He has a way better resume than what Antonio Pierce has. Like, comparing Antonio Pierce's resume to Jim Harbaugh's resume is like comparing somebody who graduates from, like Harvard compared to somebody who graduates from like a NAIA school, like a Stanton University or something like that. Like, not Stanford, a Stanton University, or like Concord University, or like comparing somebody who graduates from Everest to somebody who graduates from, like Yale or something like that. Like, it's not close. Like, Jim Harbaugh would instantly turn your team around. Oh, you don't know that, JT? Look at the resume. This dude is a winner. There's more proof that he's going to be able to have you playing at a high level next season than what Antonio Pierce is. Like, Antonio Pierce is a good story. He's a good feel-good story. And if you can't get Jim Harbaugh and he goes elsewhere, Antonio Pierce should definitely get this job. But there's an old saying that goes, when you got the chance to do better, guess what you do? You do better. And the Las Vegas Raiders have a prime opportunity to land a premier head coach. Like, they've whiffed on all of their last head coaches. And, like, they haven't had a good coach in, like, 2 decades, man. Like, you brought back John Gruden. He was terrible. Like, you hired, like, Jack Del Rio. He was good for 1 season. Like, you got a chance to have a head coach that's going to make you a consistent championship team year after year after year. And this dude is hungry to get back into the NFL, because if he wasn't, he'll be okay with coaching at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh, I'm pretty sure he has a bitter taste in his mouth losing to his brother in that Super Bowl. You put him in the AFC with a chance to go up against his brother, knock his brother out the playoffs potentially. I'm pretty sure he would love that. And if you don't get Jim Harbaugh, you're really going to let the Chargers get him? Like, this dude is a better coach than Antonio Pierce. He's going to be a better coach than Antonio Pierce. Like, how do you know this, JT? Look at the resume. Any coach that wins, like how Jim Harbaugh is able to anywhere he goes, like, he's a great coach. He's not going to fail. Now, can you win the Super Bowl with Jim Harbaugh? All right, that's a different discussion. But can Antonio Pierce really be the coach who can get you to the playoffs? We don't know this because it hasn't been proven. We've seen Jim Harbaugh turn around organizations. Like, not only are you getting a coach who's going to be able to turn your team around, but you're going to have a coach that's going to be able to take you from the bottom to being damn near like a Super Bowl contender almost. And to spend a one-off season, that's how good of a coach Jim Harbaugh is. Now, I'm not saying that Jim Harbaugh year one is going to be able to do that, but year one, I do expect you to be a playoff team with him. And even if he does want to bring J.J. McCarthy along for the ride, like J.J. McCarthy being united with Jim Harbaugh will give me way more confidence that he's going to succeed versus if he was to go elsewhere. It's like a package deal. You got a chance to get not only a great college coach, but pair him up with his college quarterback. Like, that's a good deal. Like, you kill two birds in one stone. You get a good head coach and you get what could be an upgrade at quarterback. Like, you haven't had great quarterback play since Derek Carr's MVP caliber season when he got his back snapped in half. So, like, the people saying J.J. McCarthy is mid, like, you got to think about it. J.J. McCarthy would be reunited with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh already understands his weaknesses and his strengths, so therefore, he's going to be able to assemble a staff that can put J.J. McCarthy in a situation to succeed, and it makes the transition from the college level to the NFL level a lot easier for J.J. McCarthy because he's already familiar with Jim Harbaugh and what he expects from him and what offense he's going to run. So I'm not a big believer in J.J. McCarthy neither, but my thing is that can you bro cut that out? Jim Harbaugh is one of the best coaches ever. He has been to the Super Bowl. He has taken a team to Deion Sanders has never. But what are you talking about, bro? Like, Jim Harbaugh, yeah, like, that's my point. Like, Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. So the thing is, like, if the Raiders hire Jim Harbaugh, they're instantly going to be a team that is going to be a lock to make it to the playoffs. Like, this dude has a proven resume. You see, like, when the Panthers hired Frank Wright instead of making Steve Wilkes their interim head coach last season, their full-time head coach, like, a lot of people were against it. And that ultimately ended up being the wrong decision. But Jim Harbaugh isn't in that kind of realm that a Steve Wilkes was or that a Frank Wright was. Like, this dude has been to a Super Bowl. He's been to 3 NFC championships. I've never seen a coach that's been to numerous conference championship games and a Super Bowl just all of a sudden become a terrible head coach. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh has a recipe for being able to assemble and develop talent and being able to lead it to a championship. Now, can he win the big one? That's the main question for Jim Harbaugh. But the Raiders would be foolish to pass over Jim Harbaugh for Antonio Pierce, bro. Like, the dude is a winner. We haven't seen Antonio Pierce win shit, like, for a full season. You feel me? So if you can't get Jim Harbaugh, then you make Antonio Pierce, you know, your full-time head coach. And, of course, he's going to feel a little bit slighted about that. Oh, well, you interviewed Jim Harbaugh. Like, it shouldn't be no hard feelings about it. You want to know why? Because it's a business. Okay, like you would be dumb if you're the owner of the Raiders to not look at all your options. You're just doing your due diligence. And if you can get Jim Harbaugh, you get Jim Harbaugh. Who cares if the players like Antonio Pierce? You got a chance to get Jim Harbaugh. These players, they change like the wind. They're going to like Antonio Pierce. They're also going to like Jim Harbaugh. This dude is a likable guy. There's not too many players that have ever had anything negative to say about this dude other than Richard Sherman. Like, he's a player's coach. The players rally behind him. He's a little bit weird. He has a quirky personality, but I like that about Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh, he's not for everybody. You either love him or you hate him. If you're somebody who's not a player, but he knows how to relate to players really good. So, like, the Raiders heavily pursuing Jim Harbaugh for their head coaching opening. I know a lot of people are getting a little bit upset about it. But like, if Jim Harbaugh wants to coach the Raiders, you make it happen if you're their owner. Like, yeah, people may be a little bit upset about it because everybody was attached to Antonio Pierce, but the way life works is that people change like the wind. One day somebody will love you, the next day somebody will be over you. And at the end of the day, it's still a business. These players are still professionals. Like, no player is going to protest the Raiders hiring Jim Harbaugh over Antonio Pierce. Like, these players know what Jim Harbaugh's resume is. They know that this dude is a winner. And players want to play for a guy that's a winner just as much as they want to play for a guy that they like. And Jim Harbaugh's out there. If he wants to coach your franchise, you hire this dude over Antonio Pierce, bro. And if you feel otherwise, then please lay your argument down in the comment section down below. Oh, he's a cheater. Like, so is Pete Carroll. Like, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. That's what they say. Like, who cares if he got caught doing something he had no business doing at Michigan? And then, you know, like, it's not really that big of a deal anyway. Like, all he was doing was, you know, like, recording signs, sending somebody on the staff to go do it. Like, okay, cool. You don't got to worry about that problem in the NFL. Like, Pete Carroll was cheating at USC. And where's he at now? You know, he's won a Super Bowl. So it doesn't really matter. Like, it's the college game. Like, everybody's trying to get an advantage. Like, Bill Belichick cheated. Sean Payton, like, he cheated? Like, every coach has tried to find a way to bend the rules. It just hasn't always been publicly. Like, everybody wants to try to find a way to get an advantage. It's a competitive sport. And if you can find just the smallest loophole and not get caught doing it, what are you going to do? Like, people kill me with this whole integrity thing. Like, who cares, bro? It's the NFL, not college football. Hire Jim Harbaugh if he wants to coach the Raiders, man. Like, and if he doesn't, then you hire Antonio Pierce. Simple as that.